Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Meanahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey now, today we're going to take a look at Three Kingdoms Redux from Starting Player Games. This is a competitive game for exactly 3 players, no more, no less. You are each taking control of a famous leader from the, I believe, the Han Dynasty of feudal China, and you are warring with each other, trying to come out on top. Now, in game terms, this is a very heavy resource management, point garnering, area control type game where you are a worker placement. There's a lot going on in this game. You are trying to gain control of this empire through a variety of different ways. There's getting the most victory points at the end of 12 rounds. There is having your generals on each of the provinces around the board, meaning that you have control of the land surrounding the kingdom. Just oust the current Han and gain control for yourself. There's a number of different ways you can win this game and a number of different paths to victory. And there's just a ton going on. So much so, in fact, that you probably noticed that the name of this video says that it's a quick review. That's because I could not possibly do the mechanisms of this game justice in my overview. I typically do an overview for games, and even though sometimes I go way too long, it's still, most of my videos are like under a half hour, under 20 minutes. If I did even like just kind of a normal overview of the rules that wasn't even exhaustive, this video would be an hour. So I can't do that. If you're really interested in all of the little nitty-gritty details of this game, there's a rule book that an online rule book that you can go and look at that I'm going to have a link to at the bottom underneath this. I'll see if I can find, I'm not sure right this second, but I'll see if I can find other comprehensive rules videos as well to link to. But I'm just going to show you some images of what the game looks like, a little bit of video of what the board looks like when it's all set up, and then I'll talk a bit about what's going on in the game, because there is so much stuff going on. You're each taking control of one of these leaders, and you each have control of generals. You'll start off with your main general, who is the lord of your empire. I'm going to get all the names wrong, so I'm not even going to try. You'll start off with your lord of your empire in play, but then you get a bunch of other generals as well. Now, one of the asymmetrical things about this game is that at the beginning, one player is going to be much stronger than the others and have access to more generals and more, but also have less resources than the other players, like sort of a balancing act going on. But at any given point, when one player is doing better than the other players can form an alliance against that player and help each other, and this is going to be constantly shifting throughout the course of the game. But the generals are very important because they have several different reasons why they're important. Like I said, one of the victory conditions is to take control of the different outer provinces, but as well as that, they each have a different special ability. Each ruler has their own deck of generals. There's so many of them. So they each have a different special ability. They have combat prowess and administrative prowess, because you are trying to not just conquer an empire here, you're trying to build it up and develop it. You're going to be developing land, you're going to be developing fields and build houses, and you're just trying to make your empire. That's another route to victory, by the way, is developing everything in your corner of the empire. Therefore, you become the most developed, the most cultured section of the empire, and you have rebuilt it and just basically claimed control. So that's another route you can go. But the generals are very important for bidding on actions and being able to take the various many actions that you have available to you out on the board, which could be as simple as taking resources like gold or food, rice, and also getting spears and warriors and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of it, but the love of the populace, or the popularity of the populace, something like that. The population loves you, respects you, fears you. That's another type of resource that you can gain during the course of the game. You need to make the best and most efficient use of all these different actions and gaining all these different things in order to edge out your opponent and meet one of those end game conditions, either prematurely or at the end of 12 rounds. So I don't even know where to start with this game. I mean, when just talking about my final thoughts about it, and I know I didn't do the overview of it justice there, trust me, it's really deep. This is a game that is constantly, and I almost want to say it's on a razor's edge, because you're constantly counterweighting and balancing each other player that you're playing against. And I do feel that they accomplish that task pretty well. This is a very well-designed game. The theme and the components of the game are solid. They're really, really good. I love the artwork on the general cards. The rest of the game is just tons and tons of cardboard, which you might see like, oh, too bad it didn't have really cool miniatures. But then again, the game would be even more expensive than it is. I'll get back to that in a minute. And it's cool that they keep it in this like sort of thin box, so it really works well. Even the cover of the game is attractive, and I love the way the board looks. It's not too busy. It looks great. I mean, there is a ton of stuff going on, but at the same time, there's kind of an elegance to it as well that kind of runs through the whole theme of the game too. And I really did feel like, after reading the story blurb and the rule book about what's going on between these feuding states and everyone vying for power, it did feel like I was this emperor who was or would-be emperor, who's trying to balance out my alliances with the other players and try to get ahead at the same time. It really worked well towards bringing that theme out. And there's tons of interesting mechanisms in the game. How the generals work is the best way. Not only do they look cool, but how they work with their different special abilities and trying to gain them and to use them efficiently, because you might go for someone who has just really great stats, but if you do that and if you ignore their special ability, you might be crippling yourself, because you want to get synergy going between what you're trying to do out on the board and your path to victory, whether it's developing or whatever it might be, combat, and what your generals are offering to you. So there's a lot going on there as well. Let's talk about some of the rough edges of the game, though. First off, it's very, very fiddly. I mean, I told you already, it's very, very complex, but how this sort of manifests itself is in just trying to keep track of everything that is going on, all these different resources, and things happen at different rounds. There's certain rounds of the game where everyone has a chance to gain a new general, and other rounds that you don't. There's all of this is sort of indicated in different areas of the board, but it's still a tough thing to keep track of. And overall, even though I think this is a very well-designed game, it's a bit of a beast. And the problems with the game are sort of meta things. First off, it's exactly 3 players. That is tough. I mean, not everyone is going to have just exactly 3 players, but on any like a regular general game night, but also exactly 3 players who are willing to play a very long game. That's another issue with the game, is that the box says, I think, around 3 hours. Actually, the box says very specifically 135 to 165 minutes, but that's actually very conservative. I think even for your first few games, you're going to be counting on over 3 hours, and I think that even if you're very experienced of the game, I would be shocked if you can get it under the 3-hour cap by any kind of substantial margin. It's just that heavy and complex, and a lot of games, I imagine, at least one of our games did, went the full 12 rounds and got down to victory points. I'm not sure, I couldn't even judge what the ratio of the different types of wins are, but that I can see that happening, however, and then the game is going to be quite long. Also, the game is expensive, and it's kind of hard to find at this point. Those are definitely knocks against it, but these are sort of ancillary outside forces working against it. The game itself is solid if you have the right group for it, if you have the right amount of time for it, and if you're willing to deal with the heaviness of it, of just barreling through the rule book for the first time, is a chore and a half. It's not that it's laid out poorly or that it's a bad rule book. It's just that there is so much going on in this game. But I will say, from a thematic standpoint, from just an experience standpoint, I've never played anything quite like it. The balance of these 3 powers being kept in check is just a very, very interesting experience, and it's very tense just having the 2 other people at the table and knowing that your rival in one round is going to be your ally in the next round and vice versa. Super interesting, great theme. Tough to get to the table, and maybe something that a lot of people are going to have some issues trying to get to the table with, but still, if you can manage it, give it a shot for sure. That is 3 Kingdoms Redux from Starting Player Games.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon, and make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.